It feels to me like every time war breaks out in Israel, as we've seen over the last 2 weeks, it understandably consumes our community and our nation. I find it inspiring, heartbreaking, and troubling. My heart aches for the people I love and care about living in Israel. I even feel that strange closeness to every Jew who shares the fate of living in our homeland. A shared feeling that's one of the wonderfully unique experiences of living in Israel. I'm inspired by the bravery of ordinary people who manage to oscillate with incredible resilience between the terrifying reality of sirens, bombs, anti-Semitic riots in the streets, and the normal life of work and shopping and going out with friends. And I'm also troubled by the cacophony of social media noise I encounter on Facebook, WhatsApp, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, etc. It appears on the surface to be an effort to engage in hasbara, but when you take a moment to reflect, you realize it's just a bunch of self-reinforcing memes, read almost entirely by people who share the same point of view, and virulently rejected by the few who don't, with no forum for real conversation. The echo chamber itself seems to promote an almost bizarre implied competition to out-meme the next person with even more extreme and uncompromising positions. As an educator, I can't help but wonder if there's any actual learning going on as a result of all this. Is anyone actually learning anything new? Developing an opinion or an idea that they didn't previously hold, challenging an existing assumption based on new information. In Parshat Naso, we meet the Nazir, a person who decides to devote himself completely to God through a series of vows that require abstaining from certain worldly comforts and activities. This might be described as something like the Jewish version of a saint, or a person who looks inward and is devoted to creating a closeness to God within himself. And yet, the traditional Jewish approach to the Nazir is somewhat ambivalent. In establishing the practice, Moshe appears to be seeking a solution for those seeking greater connection with Hashem, as opposed to this being, let's say, part of the core plan. The Rambam appears to pick up on this ambivalence, adopting two seemingly contradictory positions discussed in the Gemara, that the vow of the Nazir is not ideal, but yet also praiseworthy. A number of Jewish thinkers have remarked that the traditional Jewish ambivalence toward the Nazir is rooted in a Jewish aversion to taking absolute and uncompromising positions. Indeed, the leadership mantles throughout most of Jewish history have taken the form of the Chacham, the wise individual who provides the people guidance and knowledge. Moshe, the paradigmatic biblical leader, is a teacher, Moshe Rabbeinu. The Nazir may be entirely devoted to a single cause, but I would argue a great teacher subdues his or her individual devotions for the sake of fostering the development of independent-minded students. A teacher needs to listen and understand how his or her students learn, what interests them, where they can be challenged so that their best thinking can occur. Unfortunately, there are times when we need to be a Nazir of sorts, looking inward, digging our heels in and developing a stone-cold mindset of self-defense and self-preservation. But those times should be the exception, and not every time we open our phones. Must we give in to this idea that the digital world is nothing more than a platform for chest thumping and battle cries without any actual battles going on? Or can we lead like Chachamim and preserve the promise that digital media can be a great tool for education, for learning about what we don't yet know and challenging ourselves to grapple with new ideas? These days, as our screens enhance our heartbreak and inspiration, I would suggest we find ways that they can enhance our reflection and humility, instead of our hubris and self-righteousness. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.